We come to you from the Rocket City of Huntsville, Alabama. The GSC Cross Country Championships for the 2023 season, as the Lee University Flames took home the individual and the team championship for the women's division, and Lee University for their men's cross country program also looking to repeat here in Huntsville. James Hardy with you as we are getting set for our second GSC championship here in Huntsville. And Hunter, when we take a look at the map, this will be an 8K course for the men's participants. As you take a look at the overall facility here at John Hunt Park in Huntsville, right along Memorial Parkway, basically kind of one of the main arteries when it comes to the city of Huntsville. But the competition has officially begun, and also not only talk about the park, but when you look at this men's field now, albeit Lee University and UAH have been probably the two best teams of the last decade, but this looks to be this year a very well-balanced field.
Yeah, I think so. There's been Lee, UAH, and Mississippi College have all been in the talk in, the regional rankings and things like that. So I'm excited to see. I think we've got a potential slugfest of folks as they're pushing here. They're trying to get those top PRs, finish for their team, and they've got 8K to do it. It's going to be a long race. 8K is a little bit further. You see right here, we've already got some people trying to pull away. They're trying to set the pace, set the tone. These coaches, as they structure these race plans, they know their teams fare better, whether it's a little more tactical up front or if it's just hard from the gun. So they've built these race plans for their teams that's not only going to fare their individuals best, but they're trying to predict what are other teams going to do, how are other teams going to respond to my moves. So there's a lot of planning here, a lot of strategy going into this 8K event. And especially when the top three teams, are all in the mix here, it takes some planning, and they're off to a very hot pace.
Also, give us an idea as far as who are some of your impact runners as far as this men's championship.
Well, up front, I think Jan Lucas Becker, Sam Wilhelm, and Matthew Fowler. I know throughout the season they've been low sticks for their respective teams of Mississippi College, UAH, and Lee, respectively. They've been low sticks. They've been even the All-American national talk. Those athletes are. So I think we've got a really big battle today. Jan's bringing a wealth of experience to the table. He's been running competitively for years and years and years. Sam is undefeated at the Division II level. He has not lost a single race to another Division II man this season. Just 2 weeks ago here at the home meet, he remained undefeated, taking down some very fast runners. And then Matthew Fowler, which also had a great year, ran sub-24 for the 8K. So it's you've got three very high-level athletes. They're all very smart. They're all very experienced. And looking at their form here, they are not off to a slow pace. They're breaking this race out early, and I think we're going to see some really fast times.
And we took a look as far as the campus map, we'll say, as far as John Hunt Park when it comes to the GSC Championship, especially with this being UAH's home cross-country track. How much of an advantage is it for UAH to be able to play this championship here at home?
So I think the UAH Chargers, they know every corner of this course. They run here 2 to 3 times a week, if not more. Those athletes have put in hundreds of miles here on this grass. They know the curves. They know the tangents. They know everything about this course, every incline, every decline. Not only that, it's their home meet. This is their home course, so they're going to want to defend it, at a very intense level. They've got that extra mental edge, that extra, I'm going to dig deep because this is home and I want to protect it. So I think not only do they know the course, but this is a special place for them, and they're not going to run slow.
Now, UAH and Lee have combined to win 11 of the last 12 GSC championships. Lee winning last year along with 4 straight from 2015 to 2018. And then prior to 2022, You had UAH taking home 3 consecutive men's championships from 2019 to 2021, as well as 3 in a row from 2011 to 2013. Now, only 4 schools have claimed individual titles in that span as well: UAH, Lee, Mississippi College, and Shorter University.
Yeah, I definitely don't think we're seeing any perfect scores today. We've got a very talented field from all different schools. Here we see them coming around that first horseshoe to the first mile. They're coming in through the first mile, and mid 4:30s is looking like, and that is a hot pace for 8K. They're several athletes. They're gonna struggle to hold that pace, and they have not done so this year. But I think our top pack, they've got a good chance at holding it, and we may even see some record times.
Now, you are a participant as far as the GSC scene not too long ago. What kind of give us an idea of what maybe your running style was, or what would it be for an event like this?
So to me, when I in cross country is about places, not as much about times. So I take that watch off, and I don't worry about the time, and I race people. And I think that's what we're going to see these competitors. They're fighting for those individual positions. Each individual position helps their team score, helps their team win a title. And if I'm coaching these athletes today, I'm saying take those watches off. I don't care what the pace is. We're fighting with the uniforms that aren't on our chest, and that's exactly what I tell my runners.
In other words, don't worry about the times, especially this time of the year. All that matters is, in the late Al Davis's words, just win, baby.
Absolutely. You know, an old high school coach of mine would tell me, don't worry about the times. If you win, fast times will come. So if these athletes, if they're going for that win, the fast times will come, not to worry about it.
Now you look at Becker as well as Wilhelm, basically 1-2 as far as top times in GSC history. So you also maybe factor in as far as the standard we talked about in the women's race, Hunter with Lee University. You're also looking individually at both Becker and Wilhelm, maybe trying to live up to their own standards as far as this championship.
Absolutely. Jan is a 10K national champion on the track this last track season, and Sam has been undefeated at the Division II level this year. So Sam comes in. He's definitely an underdog, I think, and Matthew Fowler's definitely up there in the mix too. I don't want to leave him out. And see right here, it looks like we've got 5 in that lead pack, so we've already broken away early. But I think Jan is definitely the favorite. He's the favorite in the national rankings. He's actually, Stride Report has him as the 8th individual at the Division II level in the country, so that's a very high ranking. As we see here, they're working on this 1.5 or so miles in, working on this little incline. We can kind of see here in the picture how it gently slopes up. I see a lot of green of the West Florida. I see a lot of white. I see a lot of blue. And as we can see here, this is a very competitive race, start to finish. We're 1.5 miles in, and it's already setting up to be really interesting.
Now let's throw out UAH in the lead. Are there some other teams that maybe have a lot at stake as far as this men's championship?
I think we're definitely going to see a close battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th, maybe even 3rd and 4th. I think Lee, Mississippi College, and UAH are definitely all in the running for the top 3 spots. Lee has been ranked at about 8th to 13th at the national level, so we're not talking regional or even GSC. We're talking about the national level. UAH has improved to 21st in the national rankings, and Mississippi College has also been in the mix for most of the season. So I think any of those 3, who's having a good day today, talking about these 3 teams, where I'll tell you I really think it's going to be important is those 3rd, 4th, and 5th runners. You're talking about your low sticks, don't get me wrong, your low sticks, your 1st and 2nd runners are very important. But, when a race this tight, I've got to make sure my 5th man's beating your 5th man. I got to make sure my 4th man's beating your 4th. So I think where we really want to see today is those 3rd, 4th, and 5th runners. They are going to be just as important, if not more important, than all the other athletes on those teams.
Now, for the GSC teams today, next up will be November 4th not too far away from here, about a couple of hours, down in Montevallo for the NCAA South Regional. Now, the top 3 teams from that regional will automatically advance to the NCAA Finals, and 10 at-large teams will also be selected by the NCAA Division II Cross Country Committee to compete in the 34-team field.
And I think it's a very reasonable to expect 3 or even potentially 4 Gulf South teams to make it there. Our the men's side of the house, they have grown exponentially over the last several years. The Gulf South from mid-20 teens went from being not a powerhouse at the Division II cross country level to the last few years. We are nationally known, and we're in the rankings talks, and we have improved drastically. Here we got a live view shot as they come down that home straightaway. Here's a side view of that. We're past the 3K mark. We're past the 2K mark. And speaking of the 2K mark, we actually had a live split, and we've got Lee at 2K. So this is about 3 or so minutes ago, and here we are. And we can see here you got Sam, Jan, Matthew, Burkett, and Braydon. They're all right there in the mix. That top back. Then we've got a 4-second gap between our several other athletes. So looking at the team scores from this, we see that Lee, Mississippi College, and Alabama Huntsville, only 10 points separate them at the 2K mark. We're talking about a very tight team race this early on, and I expect it to be that way for the remainder of the race. And
looks as if very balanced individually as far as the competing schools right now, as we're probably about 40% of the way, or at least closing in on it, as far as our 8K men's championship. A very beautiful day here in Huntsville. Sunny skies on the 3rd Saturday in October, and temperatures now up to 59 degrees.
Yeah, so it's starting to warm up. Fortunately, it's still cool enough that I don't think the temperature is going to become too big a factor for these athletes. They are racing 8 kilometers versus 5, so they are going a bit longer. But it's still cool enough here on this morning. I don't think that'll become too big of a factor.
Now, as far as just for any type of race when it comes to the temperatures, especially early in the season, what kind of temperature mark does that kind of become a factor, especially in an 8K race?
So it's one of those things that varies for each individual athlete. I know I prefer it to be cold. I'd like it in the 40s when I'm racing. Some athletes prefer closer to 60. I'd say you're only really starting to be detrimental when you're north of 70, 75 or so in the bright sun, too. The bright sun can also be a factor, as well as humidity. But I think they'll finish before it really turns up the heat today.
Well, I mean, this is turning into one of the best weather days, not only at the fall, but all year long, as you're basically in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains here in North Alabama.
Absolutely. It's a great place to be. This course here at John Hunt, it is known nationally as a very fast, very elite course, and it's one of the most nicely prepped courses. It's extremely spectator-friendly. It's just one of the best courses in the Southeast, and it has quickly gathered that reputation.
I tell you what, even just noticing the event management here today, it's so far been very well run as far as all the way around, from the GSC to the personnel from the city of Huntsville. As I think this is the first year, correct me if I'm wrong, as far as John Hunt Park hosting this GSC championship.
So they hosted,
second year.
Yep, I was about to say they hosted in 2021. That was my senior year here, and so I remember it fondly.
Tell us, what are some of maybe your best memories about being able to compete in this GSC championship right here?
I think the highlight of this GSC championship was my senior year. UAH was able to win the team title, and it was just a great year. It was so it had actually been 2020. I'm thinking the spring, but in 2020. So we're talking about that first fall after the COVID pandemic really took hold of the country. And Gulf South was one of the few conferences to still allow us to compete, and I was ever so grateful. Okay, so here we see athletes are coming up to the 5K mark. We're not quite there yet, but here we have 4 athletes, looks like still in the mix with a small separation between the 5th. Those top 4 athletes, we've got one from Mississippi College, one from UAH, one from Lee, and one from Christian Brothers. So we've got a very tight race. We're past the halfway mark, and we've got 4 athletes in the mix. Here we go. It's Sam, Jan, Matthew, and Burkett. I apologize if I mispronounced that, but those are the 4 athletes, and here we come up to the 5K mark, and they're running lights out. They've got a hot pace. They've separated from the field, and because all these athletes are on different teams, it's all them versus each one of them. It's a last man standing event.
That's going to be very interesting as far as can they maintain as far as that pack down the final 3K of this 8K, or can one or maybe a couple of those athletes separate from the other 2?
I think what we'll see is 1 or 2 athletes in the next mile is going to attempt to pull away. But the thing is, when you've got this tight of talent and they're so close to each other, they're all have the fitness and they have the mental edge to cover those moves. So right now, we see Sam and Matthew leading. If I'm in that pack, I'm wanting to stay as relaxed as possible. I'm wanting to conserve as much energy, because it doesn't matter who's leading at the 5K. It matters who's leading at the 8K. And I would be just, coming off the gas as much as I can, letting some of the other athletes do the work, sit in the draft pocket, get out of the wind. And it looks like that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to stay out of the wind, stay behind each other, let some of the other athletes handle the pacing. And right now we've got Sam Wilhelm. He is up in the front. He's controlling this pace. But all these other athletes, they're close by.
So if you're one of those 4 in that pack, do you kind of have a feel as far as just how tight this race is as a runner?
Oh, this is extremely tight. I would feel you're going to have that adrenaline rush, because your opponents, they are on you. This is you hear their breathing, you hear their steps. Here we see the 5K split. They've came through the 5K in 14:46, all 4 of them. This is not a slow race, folks. This is a very fast race. They're going to be deep in the 24s, potentially in the 23s as they come to 8K. And we're setting up for an extremely fast race and a unique battle for these 4 athletes.
So we've gone about a little over 16, approaching 16 and a half minutes so far in this 8K men's championship. Awards ceremony still to come.
Wow, and looking at the 5K split for the team scores, we've actually had some shaking up. UAH is now in the lead, but they are tied with Lee at 39 points, and Mississippi College is next in line at 43. That means only 4 points, also known as 4 places in the field, that separate the champion and the 3rd place team. So this is not just an incredibly tight race for the leaders. This is an incredibly tight race for all 3 of those teams.
In fact, this pack may very well help determine who wins not only the individual but the team championship today.
Absolutely. We're at the point where every single place counts. My 5th man, while he may not be the top guy in the team today, if he can move any places or if he gets past, those have huge ramifications for that team score. And that's just what we're seeing today. Every single point matters for those top 3 teams. We cannot afford, a single misstep, a single we're falling back. Everybody's got to be in the top of their game.
So Braden is just as key as far as a possible team title for Mississippi College as, let's say, Jan Lucas Becker is then.
Absolutely. So when we're talking about the team title, if I'm in 13th and I can move up to 11th, I just saved 2 points. But if, Jan happens to win, that's still just a singular point. So we're at the point where every single point matters. Those 4th, 5th man, they've been working just as hard as those top guys. The top guys just may have a little bit more talent or a little bit more experience. But this race is absolutely going to come down to every single spot, whether you're 1st, whether you're 5th. Even if we're in a team tie, if there's 2 teams that have the same score, it goes to the 6th man. So even there could be a situation where your 6th or your 7th man, while you are, not ever in the top to, win that individual title, we've seen national championships won on the 6th man. So every single place matters, every single point matters, and that's if I'm coaching Dave, that's exactly what I'm yelling to all my athletes.
This has been very impressive how these quartet of runners, Hunter, have just been able to stick with each other consistently for much of this race.
Absolutely, and I suspect what we're going to see is, in here in a little bit, they're entering this last mile, and we're about to come up the big hill. So this is the last hill before we get a long downhill all the way to the finish. And we see here on the cart we're actually turning up into the hill, and they'll start climbing shortly. But yet, at some point, someone's going to break this wide open. You've got 4 athletes, and they're all just sitting there. They're itching. They're ready for someone, because as someone busted open, it's full steam ahead.
So, Hunter, kind of describe as far as yourself when it comes to collegiate cross country, maybe a top memory for you.
My top memory is definitely just that senior year. 2020 here at John Hunt, we were able to UAH Chargers were able to take home the team title, and for us that had been an undefeated season. We had not lost a single race as a team that season, and that's just that was the best way to potentially end a cross country career on.
Do you remember how long it took you to finish?
I believe I ran 25 flat, 25:01 maybe. It was my PR at that time, and but I'll tell you what, these athletes, they're probably going to run a lot faster than that.
Oh, I think certainly from the first 4, maybe even a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm. And that's just to talk about how much the Gulf South has continued to improve as far as individuals and teams go. The Gulf South is more competitive now than we were in 2020, and I think that shows in the times.
Oh, look at how balanced those times are, Hunter. Not only from first, but really almost down to about 15 to the top 20 spots.
Absolutely. And we've got all teams here. I see Lee, I see UAH, Mississippi College, West Florida, Christian Brothers. We've got several teams here in the mix for these top 15 spots. They're going to be the ones winning the all-conference individual medals. So everyone's gunning for that all-conference or that team spot.
Well, the patrons here at John Hunt Park anticipating a very tight finish here for the 8K Men's Championship.
Absolutely. We're at 21 and a half minutes. I suspect we're going to be in the low 24s for their finishing time. So we're coming here to the last few minutes. This is the final push. This last 1K, they've already raced 7. At this point, you're tired, you're hurting, you're fighting that mental battle to hang on to the pace, to beat your competitors, and to help improve your team score.
We'll take another look as far as some of the players or some of the athletes that are a little bit further back. But as far as our top 4 leaders right now, do you think there's anybody that has an advantage right now as far as those final few minutes?
So I'm not entirely sure. I know we got a quick clip right there, but we're about to see who enters the final stretch here, and then we'll know for sure who's in the lead. I know Jan was the big favorite of this race, but Sam Wilhelm, it looks like Sam Wilhelm's actually in the lead. He must have had a crazy last 1K. That is I believe the junior of UAH, an extremely hard last 1K. And wow, this was unexpected. But Sam, he's an underdog. He's a fighter, and he's coming up. He has pulled away from those other 3 competitors. This is his home course, and this is incredible.
In fact, Sam won the Charger Invitational individually just within the last 2 weeks here at John Hunt Park.
Absolutely. And, Sam entered this as an extremely competitive field, but he had momentum. He's about to be a 10K national champion on the track. So this is by no means a small task or small event.
So Sam Wilhelm coming down the stretch as looks as if he sees the finish line in sight.
Wow, and it is 23:18, 23:20. We're about to have an extremely fast time. He is well under 24. This is a remarkable time and a remarkable finish for Sam Wilhelm.
And Wilhelm wins on home turf here in Huntsville. Very impressive, as you'll have 3 more outstanding competitors cross the finish line. One at least 2, 3, and 4.
And that's going to be huge potentially for UH winning the team title. You know, the 5K split in the team, UAH was 1 point behind Lee. So Sam being able to take home the team, I'm extremely excited to see how this shakes out for the next runners.
And still, as far as that team title, these players that are back in the pack still matter as far as when it comes to the team tallying the team points.
110%. The fourth, fifth man is going to be crucial today. And it looks like we've got some Lee runners, some more UH runners, West Florida. You know, everyone's in the mix here in this last straightaway.
Been a very competitive season here in the Gulf South Conference as Sam Wilhelm takes the individual title here in Huntsville, his second win here at John Hunn Park in the last couple of weeks.
Wow, 23:30. 23:30. I can't get over that. Is a fantastic time.
Jan Lucas Becker finishes second.
And looks like we've got 4 runners from Lee already finished. So that's really going to help Lee in the team title running.
As you take a look at some more athletes coming across the finish line.
Wow, and we see that finish. Sam Wilhelm, he put 10 seconds on second place there in that last 1K. That's an incredible feat.
And I don't know if you know this as far as when Wilhelm and really those first 5 came across, just the energy that was at that finish line from our spectators.
I know I could hear everyone clapping, everyone cheering. That's just an incredible finish. Looks like at this point in the race we've had all 5 runners from Lee, Mississippi College finish. Looks like UAH is still have 4th of 5 finished. So shortly we'll have those team titles up shortly.
And there you see still another wave of runners coming down the home stretch. And still points to be determined as far as the team championship. Next up, as far as our programs here at the Gulf South Conference Men's Championship, they'll make the trip down to Montevallo on November the 4th, and it'll be the NCAA South Regional.
Absolutely. I think we're going to have several teams in the running to make it to the national meet at that regional meet. We've got Lee, UAH, Mississippi College, Auburn, Montgomery, West Florida, Montevallo, and Union have all been ranked in the top 10 this season at the regional level, so it's going to be just as competitive race there as it is here.
And, of course, like the women, the men's NCAA Finals in Joplin, Missouri on November 18th. So when you talk about those also not only as far as trying to win a team championship, but if you want to put yourself in position as far as the large spot in an NCAA final, this is an important race as far as impressing the selection committee.
Absolutely. You know, this is a talk about how much the Gulf South has grown. You know, we are definitely now known as a very competitive conference. So these rankings, these finishings, they're going to be crucial in that committee deciding who goes where.
27 and a half minutes in as more of our athletes cross the finish line.
And it looks like in the unofficial team results, Lee's going to take the title today at 35 points with a second place of UAH at 59 and third Mississippi College at 62 points. So shows you how close and how crucial that last 3K from the 5K split to 8K, you know, that was for Lee in that team title running.
So Lee did better as a team, but Sam Wilhelm had a super strong finish really down about the last probably 2.5K in this 8K race.
Absolutely. That both, Lee's 3rd, 4th, and 5th, just as we were talking about, they ended up pulling to get top 10. I have their 5th man as 10th overall, so just shows you how crucial that 3rd, 4th, and 5th was to them making that team title today.
A good solid race really across the board so far. As we're at 28 and a half minutes in. And there you see more participants coming across the finish line.
And Sam Wilhelm with that 23:30. You know, I'll have to check, but that may be close to record here at John Hunt.
Yeah, I think that is indeed his best time. Certainly this season, his best prior time was the Charger Invitational, which he won at just over 24 minutes.
Absolutely. So a 30-second PR for him. Looks like, but you know, I don't want to discount those other athletes. Like the times we ran today, 23:30, 23:40. Those are extremely fast times for not just the Gulf South, but at the national level. This race is actually should shake up the individual rankings for the national talk. So I think we're definitely going to see at the individual level some athletes be in the All-American mix come November.
So who would be, as far as, obviously you look at Jan Lucas Becker, Sam Wilhelm, I would imagine a couple of those that will get heavy consideration for All-American. Any others that we saw today that could be in consideration?
I think everyone in that top pack, that top four pack that we saw who raced together for the entire time, I think any of them could break out. You know, All-American status at the NCAA meet, I believe, is the top 40 athletes at who finish. And I think any of those four could hop in that top 40, no problem.
Just past 30 minutes. And still some more finishers to go. And we'll have the award ceremony coming up at the conclusion of our men's 8K championship. So Sam Wilhelm takes home the individual title here at the GSC Cross Country Championship.
And Lee looks like will take home the men's team title. And I believe, is this Lee's second in a row
to
take it home? Wow.
So second in a row that they've taken both the men and the women's team championship.
Yeah, both all Mississippi College, UAH, and Lee, you know, they had real strong showings today. I know for Mississippi College, they have struggled with a couple injuries this year of crucial runners that we did not get to see compete today. And I think that would have changed the mix-up, too, a little bit. It could have made it even more competitive. So that's exciting to see. I think next year here at the Gulf South Conference, we're going to be being able to see just as competitive. I believe Sam and Matthew of Lee, as well as our Christian Brothers finisher, I believe they're all coming back. So we're probably going to see a similar thing next year.
And so you're probably talking about the top conference in Division II when it comes to cross country next year.
Maybe not.
Or at least among the top.
We will be one of the top in the Southeast, I'll guarantee you that. At the Division II level, there's some highly competitive ones out in the like Mountain West, those regions of the nation. So a lot of schools at altitude. But I think in the Southeast, we'll hands down be the top.
So a few more of the men's athletes inching toward the finish line. A solid time, at least right now. Overall, as far as the bottom tier participants, about 32 and a half minutes coming up as far as the competition goes.
Absolutely, and for especially those athletes returning, you know, the sky's the limit. So we could see remarkable times again next year at the Gulf South Cross Country meet. You know, who's going to be in the running for the team title? I think it'll be similar schools. I also know Auburn Montgomery, they have been on the come up for several years now, finishing fourth today. I misspoke. It looks like Christian Brothers took the fourth place spot, but a very close battle between Christian Brothers and Auburn Montgomery at 148 and 150 points respectively. So, you know, both those teams, they've been on a come up these last several years. Of course, Lee, UAH, and Mississippi College all have a kind of a advantage at this point. They've had a lot of momentum from these last several years.
But I think from Christian Brothers and AUM, basically a tie for fourth, and you would have to imagine that I think both of those teams, especially their coaches, had to be really pleased with what they saw from their teams today.
I absolutely think so. And looking at the results times across the board, this is some really fast finishes. So I think while, some other teams who maybe didn't win the team title, I think a lot of people were walking away with their best 8K times today, and on the women's side, the best 5K times. So, you may not have the team result that you wanted, but when all your athletes ran their best, what more can you be upset with?
And that's what you want to see, is just perform at your best, no matter whether you're an elite world-class athlete or you're the last place finisher. Just try your hardest, leave it all out on the field, and perform the best you can.
Absolutely. These athletes, they've been working hard all summer, all fall, and to come here at the championship meet here at John Hunt, it is just that's where you want to finish your best. You want to finish on empty and leave nothing in the tank.
Well, there you see about the 34.5-minute mark, as some more of our individual totals posted as far as both of the scoreboards here at the finish line. So you have at least the top 40 that have already crossed the finish line.
Absolutely. Looks like top 24 times you had to run about mid-25s, and that is by no means a slow time to get top 25 here at the conference level. You're talking about, those are elite athletes all up to, top 20, top 25. Most of the runners here, they would be considered elite athletes. So this is just, I can't harp on it enough. This has been a very competitive field and a very tough race, and it's been exciting to watch.
Well, one thing as far as you certainly know, that is that the better that this conference gets as far as a whole, but also the individual teams, that just means the conference and your member schools just become more attractive as far as the recruiting trail.
Absolutely. It is a big cycle. As one team gets better, it may take a few key athletes, and other teams say, hey, we want to win, we want to beat you guys. And then once that starts happening, and then a third team adds in, and then next thing you know, you've got a conference full of extremely elite schools who are all recruiting extremely great high school talent, because the conference, it's in the national talks. People, when they talk about the Gulf South and these athletes, they're talking about athletes who will compete at that highest level. So that just attracts better high school talent. When that attracts, then you'll have faster times across the board, and it just it's a cycle. You're exactly right.
There you see some of our individual totals. Sam Wilhelm with about 23 minutes and 30 seconds and change to take home the GSC individual title. And very competitive, really in about the top 25 to top 30. You talk about probably within 2.5 minutes or so from number 1 to about number 30.
Absolutely. It is just incredible finishes here today.
And actually more like to the top 40 spots within about 3.5 minutes of Sam Wilhelm, the winner today. There you take a look at some more individual times. So the top 56 at least have been able to make their way across the finish line. Still a few more racers out on John Hunt Park. And I think that's our last one, Hunter.
It looks like it. I believe they're probably coming down that big hill, coming up here to the finish.
So probably about another minute or so before we come to the conclusion of the men's cross-country championship. What's impressed you so far about this particular men's championship?
Well, I think the individual battle for the individual title, those top 4 athletes, that is something that is not super common at these highly competitive meets. Typically, one athlete, 2 athletes, they will pull away early, like we saw in the women's race today. But when you have such high talent at such close level, that is not a common occurrence. So being able to watch that individual battle take place with all 4 of those athletes, they're all working their individual strategies. They're trying to feel out, my competitors, how good are they feeling? How good am I feeling? When should I make my move? When should I pull away? And what we saw was they were largely together coming up that big hill. And then somewhere in that last K, Sam said, all right, it's go time. 110%, let's drop the hammer and put a 10-second gap on his fellow competitors. And that's pretty remarkable. And that you got to have a lot of patience to do that in the last K. Sam was not pulling away early. He was sitting back. He was staying as relaxed as possible in his pack. And he hit the jets when it mattered.
Certainly did, pulling away from the top 4 as far as about the final 2 to 2.5 K, as we have some of our final participants crossing the finish line.
And looking at the splits, now it's possible that in our live splits some were not captured properly. It looks like our last athletes coming down that big hill. But you talk about on the team side, the highlights. According to the live results at 5K, Lee and UAH were separated by a single point, and then UAH and Mississippi College were separated by just 3 points. So when we talk about how competitive it is, and we're at 5K, we're over the halfway mark. So this is late. Put football terms, we're in the 4th quarter at this point, and just to see the teams pull away, looks like Lee's 5th man went from 15th to 10th. And that movement by that 5th man is huge.
How huge is it?
Well, off the bat, it saves their team 15 points. But as it saves their team 15 points, those other points, they get added to other teams. So that deficit just becomes larger and larger.
Well, we're inching our way toward the finish line with our last competitor for this 3rd Saturday in October. The NCAA South Regional awaits the GSC teams in about a couple of weeks on November the 4th in Montevallo.
And at Montevallo, we'll talk about that. They're actually going to race a 10K there. So they're going to be going a little bit further than we saw today. The regional meets and the national meets are ran for the men. They're 10-kilometer races, so a little bit longer than we've seen today. And that changes things a little bit. You've got to be more patient. You've got to conserve a little bit more energy. And all these athletes, they will face each other again at that level. And they're going to have some additional schools there, too.
So trying to detect which school is being represented as far as this final athlete that's out on the playing surface.
I believe that's shorter. Looks like it's shorter.
So I know you see, looks like number 461 there as far as the final men's competitor. So that is James Craig, the senior for Shorter, indeed the Shorter University Hawks, waiting to get to the finish line for the very final time today. We appreciate you for joining us here on Flow Sports. This is the 2023 GSC Cross Country Championship. James Hardy with you. Hunter Nails alongside me. And the rest of our GSC crew with Flow Sports doing an excellent job today as far as the shots that you are seeing here in Huntsville. And we are about to the finish line as far as this GSC Championship. The award ceremony to come in a few minutes, but it's been a really fun event again for the Gulf South Conference. Of course, when you take a look at the tradition-rich history at the GSC, when it comes to really all sports, from football all the way to cross country and everywhere in between, a lot of tradition as far as championship excellence, amazing athletes that have donned uniforms as far as programs in GSC history. And our GSC championship has officially come to a close with 43 minutes 35 seconds as far as the time that is taken to complete this race. So before we go to the award ceremony and step aside, Hunter, just what are some of your thoughts as far as what we saw today?
I mean, between the women and the men, those are some incredible performances that I think are going to be talked about when we look at, national rankings when we talk about who's making it national, who's going to receive those votes. I think today's meet is definitely going to be in the mix for those conversations.
So a big thanks to all of our Flow Sports crew here in Huntsville at John Hunt Park on a gorgeous Chamber of Commerce Saturday afternoon on the third Saturday in October. It's been breakfast with the Gulf South Conference cross-country teams. Lee University taking home the team titles for both the men's and the women's for the second year in a row. And it was Lee University also taking home the women's individual championship and UAH taking home the men's individual championship here at John Hunt Park. So for all of our Flow Sports crew, we'll step aside. The award ceremony still to come here in Huntsville.